Good morning to everyone. This is Ananta Lakshmi from the Department of English, PB Siddhartha College of Arts and Science, Vijayawada. Today we will discuss the topic barriers to communication. Barrier is an obstacle which we come across while trying to communicate with a person or persons. A number of barriers hinder the culmination of the communication process. Some of them originate from the source, who would be the sender, and some occur on the channel of transmission, and some surface at the time of decoding the message by the receiver. So, barrier is caused from both the sides of sender as well as receiver. There are different kinds of barriers that we come across, of which linguistic barrier is the first one. Let us try to know the causes for these barriers. The first cause for linguistic barrier would be ignorance of the nature of words. Unless and until we know the complete meaning of the word in the situation, that is going by context, we cannot understand the nature of words because words keep changing from one situation to another. One word in one need not have the same meaning in the second. So, ignorance of the nature of words will cause a linguistic barrier. The second cause would be limited vocabulary. All of us are advised to enrich our vocabulary because enrichment of vocabulary might make us overcome the linguistic barriers. So, limited vocabulary should always be enriched. We should enrich our vocabulary on a daily basis so that we can avoid linguistic barriers. Then another important cause would be wrong choice of words. When we choose a wrong word for a word that we have to use in a situation, the entire meaning of the sentence goes wrong. Therefore, wrong choice of words also would be one of the causes for linguistic barriers. We have to choose a proper word, and that depends upon our vocabulary. Therefore, we need to once again enrich our vocabulary. Another important cause would be construction of long and complex sentences. Any language, if we keep our ideas as simple as other people could understand, then we can avoid linguistic barriers by avoiding long and complex sentences. Then another cause would be improper word order. In English, sentence structure would be subject, verb, and object. So, if we do not place the word order in a proper manner, then we come across the linguistic barriers. Improper punctuation also leads to linguistic barriers. When we have to punctuate one part of a sentence, if we do it in a wrong manner, it leads to miscommunication. Therefore, all these are the causes of linguistic barriers, and we have to avoid all these so that we can easily overcome linguistic barriers. Second one, psychological barriers. The main causes for psychological barriers would be mental states such as preconceived notions, wrong assumptions, fixed ideas, one track thinking. Some of us always try to uh, go wrong regarding assumptions. We try to assume something else, and communication finally goes miscommunicated so that people might misunderstand us. We should also not have fixed ideas. We have to keep our mind flexible so that we can easily understand others and we can avoid or what we can call as overcome. We can overcome psychological barriers. One track thinking also should not be. We should try to have empathy towards others so that we can avoid one track thinking. We should also try to think from the side of the receiver. Then we can overcome these psychological barriers. The second important cause would be mental habits such as premature evaluation, jumping into conclusions, I know all presumptions. Premature evaluation, we try to pass a judgment without undergoing the situation completely. Jumping into conclusions also. Without understanding the situation, we should never jump into conclusions because this will lead to misunderstanding in communication. I know all presumption, know it all attitude, what we call. If we have this in our mind, we do not tend to concentrate or listen to what the speaker tends to tell. Therefore, we should avoid this know it all attitude perception also so that we can overcome psychological barriers. Another important factor is uh, background, difference in background, different levels of knowledge and education, lack of concentration while transmitting or receiving messages. Difference in background. Each of us belong to different social backgrounds, which can also be considered during certain kinds of situations, which will cause psychological barriers. Therefore, whichever background we belong to, we have to consider the ideas of the receiver so that we can avoid the differences in background. Different levels of knowledge and education also tend to become the barrier. In order to avoid this, we should consider what is called as the attitude of the receiver also and lack of concentration. If we do not tend to concentrate or if we do not listen patiently, then we would not be able to respond properly and the sender will tend to misunderstand that you have not received him properly. Therefore, we have to avoid these things. Another important cause would be these barriers could be reduced through exhibiting empathy from the receiver side and understanding of the psychology of the man and also an awareness of the differences in the backgrounds, perceptions and points of views. Third one would be interpersonal barriers. Some of the causes for interpersonal barriers are strong emotions and feelings. Emotions, whether they be positive or negative, should never be strong. They should not be exhibited in a strong manner because it might lead to misunderstandings. So, whether it be positive emotion or negative emotion, we should never try to exhibit. We have to try to have control over our emotions so that we can avoid interpersonal barriers. Unshared perceptions and ideas is another cause for interpersonal barriers. We have to be able to share our ideas so that we can avoid or overcome the interpersonal barriers. Having negative attitude is another important cause for interpersonal barriers, and we could avoid this by keeping ourselves positive. Thinking positive is a good sign wherein we can develop good relationships. Therefore, avoiding negative attitude can easily make us overcome interpersonal barriers. It is the responsibility of the sender and the receiver to ensure proper communication, and so one of them has to take initiative and advance a step in the right direction. Cultural barriers. Some of the causes for cultural barriers could be difference in business practices, difference in social customs and etiquette, divergent perception of values, and conceptual peculiarities. Difference in business practices, each of one might have a different concept in practicing. Therefore, we have to consider all these differences so that we can easily overcome the cultural barriers. Difference in social customs and etiquette. Every culture has its own social customs and traditions. We follow every society follows certain customs and traditions, and this, if we find a difference in social customs and the behavior of a person, we have to be broad minded enough so that we can understand their social customs and behavior as well, so that we could overcome cultural barriers. Divergent perception of values. Values differ from one place to another. What is a value according to one person need not essentially be the value of another person. So, values should be considered according to the society and the customs in which they have born and brought up into so that we could overcome cultural barriers. Conceptual peculiarities is also another important cause for cultural barriers. We must all be aware of the social, cultural practices and customs when dealing with the members of a non native community so that we can overcome cultural barriers. Physical barriers. The causes for physical barriers are technical noise such as harsh or loud music, din of machines, the creaking of doors or windows, etc. Technical noise, or when we come to hear loud music, we sometimes go irritated. Therefore, it might be a cause for physical barriers, and we have to take care to see that we don't use any kind of harsh or loud music, though we are interested. We should not disturb others. Din of machines, creaking of doors and windows, all these come under physical barriers. We have to avoid such kind of noises in order to overcome physical barriers. Physical noise such as improper seating arrangement, poor lighting, badly ventilated room, physical discomfort because of room temperature or uncomfortable seats. All these could be arranged in a proper manner so that we can easily overcome physical barriers. Distractions such as gaudy dress, odd body movements, unsuitable gestures, fiddling with a bunch of keys or buttons, loud or strong perfume, all these cause physical barriers. By avoiding all these, we can easily overcome physical barriers. To minimize the adverse impact of these barriers, you may repeat the message louder or shift to a congenial physical setting, seek support from transmission technology, visual aids, etc. Thank you.